Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and welcome to the channel. Now, for those who do not know, or if you only tune in on Fridays, we go live Monday through Friday. We talk for about an hour, and it's open, live, unscripted, over 3 platforms: Twitch, YouTube, and our own Discord server. So, Future Friday. This series on Future Friday, we tend to focus in on, of course, science fiction, high technology, far future, and most especially transhumanist style tabletop role-playing games. So we will be talking about games such as The Expanse, Altered Carbon, Eclipse Phase, and that kind of thing. So yes, just to let you know that while this is, you can apply just about every episode to any kind of like science fiction or modern tabletop role-playing setting, we will be referencing it in general, Altered Carbon and Eclipse Phase and that kind of thing. All right, so on this channel, we pick a subject. This week we've been talking about the undead and necromancers. And while we're doing that, we go through each week, we subdivide it because we have a different theme for each day. Well, on Future Friday, it makes you wonder, like, undead and necromancers for science fiction. And to be honest with you, this is more relevant than you would think, at least from my estimation. And of course, we're going to delve into it right now. Now, one of the main technological features in transhumanism is technological immortality. The idea of having a cortical stack, a thumb drive, a backup brain, a recording disc in the back of your head that records your entire life experiences and can be removed and put into somebody else's, into another body. Basically, you can become re-sleeved, or your entire neurological network can be downloaded into a computer system and uploaded into another, like, biological or technological body. But it just do me the honor of letting me go back in time a little bit. Humanity has always been interested in functional immortality of any sort. And we can go back to stories such as Frankenstein's monster, the protean monster he created by stitching together body parts. You can go back even further than that with other types of cultures where they are always thinking of using elixirs and salves and things of that manner to achieve immortality. Yeah, yeah. like Gaster Two Soul says over on Twitch, like, immortality is humanity's bread and butter. We eat that shit up. Yeah. Oh, immortality. When you're kids, remember talking as kids, we'll sit around on the playground or something and talk about, like, if you had one superpower, what would it be? And invisibility, super strength, or flight, or telekinesis, or something, and then you always have the one person that's like, I want Superman's abilities, which is kind of a cheat. But ultimately, all of that pales in comparison, if you really think about it, to immortality. Yep, like Tesla Ranger brings up the necromongers in the Chronicles of Riddick. Wow, that's a little bit of a. I mean, it's funny because I just went through my DVD collection because I was cleaning it out, and I just remembered the box set of the Riddick Chronicles, and yeah, the necromongers. So there's something about immortality, and as a matter of fact, lots of us are trying to achieve immortality in more ephemeral ways, whether it is leaving our mark on society, or people who want to build monuments to their name. Well, moving further into the future, some could say, before the cortical stack, before the re-sleeving becomes what it is, what what was humanity doing to achieve immortality? Were we downloading our brains and dropping data? Were we using different types of nanotech and elixirs and technological feats to or organ legging by stealing, producing 3D printing organs for us to live in longer periods of time? And what kind of failures did we have in and amongst that? And before the cortical stack became ubiquitous, where we are a society of status and levels and factions and things. Not everybody's going to have access to the same technology at the same time. So if you're poor or you have no influence, what do you do then? And so I think it absolutely applies of while not directly being having undead monsters and necromancers. I think the same does appear in science fiction plenty of times. Hey Cam, your all DM says in Warhammer the Necrons were a humanoid race that lived under a burning sun, so they replaced their frail flesh with perfect immortal metal, and using different sleeves would allow humans to live on inhospitable planets. Oh hell yeah! And I even contend that technological bodies, synthetic bodies, while very useful, if you still want to have a biological body, your cortical stack i- in many ways can be very divorced from your own flesh. So if you have no pain receptors, which is probably pretty easy to implant into a biological body, why would it even be necessary for your biological body to stay alive, especially if you were very rich or you had um, access to certain technologies, or using the Necrons, if you live in a place with a heavy radiation, high gravity, poisonous atmosphere, some kind of, maybe there's some kind of nanotech or biological thing that causes rapid decomposition in the human body. Let's say biological bodies only last given 5 to 10 Earth years on another planet. Maybe it's just easier, or uh, maybe people are just used to printing out or growing biological bodies and just replacing them and letting the old sludge ones die off. So being a zombified human being on an alien planet might not be very strange at all. It might just be what's left of the technology that the settlers had on that place. So zombies, maybe, as their skin starts to fall off and they don't feel that their internal organs and bones are exposed to the atmosphere until they can find another biological body to insert. Or hell, they might even be a colony that was purposefully left there, and maybe they were forgotten, or there was some kind of punishment, or they're rebels against a particular corporation or a government or something, and they don't have access to a particular technology, or there's something imperfect about the way they do something, or a sabotage even. Gaster Two Soul says genetic modification. Humanity begins experimenting with immortality, creating the Lazarus Project, trying to create a human with genetic modifications. Yeah, and again, much like today, the first people here, especially here in the States, going to the first movie theaters that are opening up, or the first to go on a cruise ship leaving ports in the United States. Somebody somewhere is going to be the first before we perfect a certain technology. What happens to those imperfect immortals, right? Um, Cameron says, I could see there being people who are losing their memories from their cortical stack. Yep. Going crazy and somehow stealing other people's memories to compensate, sort of a vampire. Yeah. Technological vampirism. Hell yeah. And y- as the games and the settings suggest, cortical stacks are a perfect technology, meaning that without an outside influence, the stack records your entire memories. The stack is removed. You get re-sleeved into another body, or someone steals your stack. Boom, they re-sleeve you into another body, synthetic or biological, and you're done. Right? It is a perfect technology, but when did it become perfect, or maybe there's an imperfection in it that no one wants to acknowledge, such as, can you get Alzheimer's or a sundowners kind of situation? We all use computers, and we all know you could literally have a computer, do nothing to it, and it gets a glitch in it, right? How many times have we tried to live broadcast, and then all of a sudden something glitches out? When that happens in your brain and you lose your memories, maybe there's an insanity that starts to happen if you don't incorporate other memories into your brain. You know, you start to lose bits and pieces of your past, or you for some reason you don't remember what the number 8 looks like, or you can't even say it, or something strange, like you don't remember the taste of vanilla or whatever, and maybe that starts this spiral downhill. And the only way this inbred you know conclave of survivors has to steal the memories of others, and that theft could be pretty brutal given a particular set of circumstances. Two Soul says, however, what would happen if this tampering with the human DNA unleashes a Pandora's box buried deep within ourselves, creating the first vampires? Perhaps this isn't even a cool horror story. Perhaps isn't even a cool horror story with science instead of magic, but a warning to what lurks beneath the skin. I think that's an underutilized horror of sorts, or storytelling mechanism that we've talked on this channel before about. Human beings seen from an alien perspective are pretty dangerous human beings. I mean, we breed terribly quickly. We spread into inhospitable regions. We are un- unbelievably brutal to each other on a social level. What if there is something inside of our DNA that if you tweaked it just enough, it would set us apart. It would set us above. Who's to say that vampirism might not even be embraced by a philosophical method of humanity wanting to evolve to the next level? And what's higher on the food chain than a human being, than a vampire, which is a perfect predator, right, in our mythology? Or heck, maybe the myths of our past are actual scientific truths in our future, that vampirism, lycanthropy, ghosts, even, in the far future, psionics exists, right? Maybe that was what we considered magic in our mythology, and maybe vampirism, or what would you call them, hemophages, um, the drinking of human blood, or it could just be a genetic disorder that happens by people who've lived a couple generations on an alien world. And we just technologically, we just can't seem to produce any hemoglobin and white blood cells. We need to drink it from other people to get it into our bodies. um, yeah, Jarl DM says a favorite future trope for me is the attempt to create super soldiers that leads to a genetic splicing and creating monsters like immortal mistakes. Yep, it's a good way to create zombies in space. Yeah, zombies in space. Yeah, and what's the cult favorite show? Firefly, Serenity, the Reavers. The Reavers were space rage zombie kind of things. Yeah, and if the body starts to decay, let's go back to the Necrons, right? Oh, my arm is starting to decay and fall off, and the muscle fibers are now gray and dead. I think I'll replace it with a cyber arm, right? Yeah, I mean, vampirism could spread, and of course, we have to have some kind of like viral infection, some life form that gets incorporated and spreads from one to the other. Tesla drops into the Discord The four dark. Are they like the four horsemen? The four dark judges are like the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Yeah, yeah. Judge Dredd. Man, I mean, there's so many. And the thing is that we don't even have to, looking at that image, we don't even have to just refer to just plain old zombies or just plain old vampires. I mean, if we manipulate them, like who's to say a zombie in a technological zombie isn't doesn't carry around radiation that's really dangerous. Like if they touch you, you'll suffer like radiation burns, or that a vampire um, can't doesn't have like thermal vision and can sense things, or might even be able to sense like the neurological, the electrical impulses in the brain, and they can kind of like track you that way, like a monster or something, or even hell, maybe even the ability to like shift their body or like shed their skin and become something else or someone else or whatnot. Yeah, mimicking your memories, and like an invasion of the body snatchers, and coming out of like pod people coming out whatnot. Oh, yep. Dead Man's brings in the Dead Space, a series of games with zombies in space, and especially if the zombieism is a slow transformation, you might not be able to trust which individuals in your bounded location, because I love horror has to have a bounded location, right? A confined space, a habitat being a confined space, a starship, um, even an alien world in many ways, or an asteroid could be in a confined space, and then all of a sudden the paranoia sets in. Cameron says, I like the was it always perfect question. Technological vampirism seems like it would be something old and almost forgotten. You know what? And listen, we before I get to Two Souls comment, humanity tends to we tolerate a lot of terrible things in our own lifetimes, right? I was just flipping channels yesterday or something, and was I can't remember what it was, but someone was talking about tornadoes sweeping through a region, and their small town was hit with tornadoes and people died. And it made me think like from the outside, and I don't mean to make light of the terrible things that happen to people in our own world, but for example, we live in some terrible places. Brutal cold, extreme heat, droughts, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, uh, heck, diseases, and yet we live there. So technological imperfection would probably, we're like, as long as it's like 90, 95% good, we're fine. Right? We put up with a lot of terrible things to live where we are, or to get where we want to be, or to claim success when we really haven't had a success. We go, yeah, 82%, we're fine. We're successful, right? Yep, like Cameron says, Ghost in the Shell, Cyber Ghost. How did I not think of it soon? You know what? I didn't think about Cyber Ghost. Yeah, why wouldn't I mean, okay, um, perfect cyber ghost idea. Soldiers on a battlefield, scientists, colonists or something. Someone, goes over to the needle cast, the ego caster, and goes, I'm gonna beam my brain to I'm in the Oort cloud. I'm gonna beam my brain back to Mars. And oops, that one in a million chance that you get a glitch, and now that person's brain doesn't arrive on the other end, and everyone's like, where's Joe? I don't know. Gina showed up, but Joe didn't get here. And now Joe's nothing but a cyber ghost. Pissed off, um, enraged, in technological pain. Who's to say, right? Um, yes, just Susol says, but yes, just changing a small thing in our body, we become the next apex predator. And perhaps with this new genetic alteration, could spread through such things as saliva contact, blood contact, maybe even could be even spread through STIs. Yep. Oh man, could you imagine like our bodies are in homeostasis, right? Like we we have lactic acid that gives us exhaustion, and we need to have certain types of sleep. But what if a virus was able to eliminate or reduce one or more of our homeostatic abilities, like pain or exhaustion or hunger? And those super soldier, going back to Jarl DM's comment, right? Those super soldier elements that makes the perfect soldier makes that person in a civilized society a complete monster, right? Like, oh, you don't need to sleep, or you only need an hour or two of sleep, or you have something is broken inside of someone so that they can't sleep anymore, and they start to go crazy, or they start to have a hunger that they can't control. Um, what is it? The human bodies and bone is far stronger, and muscle is far stronger than our exhaustion gives it credit for to save our bodies. So someone could physically lift up a car, even though as a normal human being they might not be able to lift much, but the human body could apply such leverage that even though their bones are breaking, they could still, like, you know, shred steel and lift the car up and get blasted in the chest with a couple of slugs and still keep on going because, hey, I don't feel the pain. You know what I mean? Like, that would just be incredible, and maybe even like panic worthy, especially if the players are like slowly changing. Like, could you imagine the player characters? They've got their cortical stacks. They're going on a mission, and all of a sudden, there's like some kind of virus that's turning them slowly into these like super roided out super soldiers. But it's also like destroying their body. So like they're like, "Whoa, you mean that this virus is making my character a badass? Great! I don't see a problem with this." And then all of a sudden, one of their allies just taps them on the shoulder, like, "You do realize, like, you've got, like, I don't know, a couple of bullet holes in you." You're like, "Oh, I didn't realize I was leaking anything. What's that about?" Yeah. Jarl says in Warhammer, the Space Marines are super or post-human. In the lore, there's a phenomenon called transhuman dread, where normal people feel an innate terror around post-humans. Yeah, like I'm thinking like it's called the Uncanny Valley, where watch any television show or movie where they use CGI to try to mimic a human being, but it just doesn't look right to you. That's called the Uncanny Valley. And I could see the Uncanny Valley being a real thing. Ooh, Laws of Gods and Men. Thank you for popping in. You are always welcome. The Jarl goes on to say they don't smell like people. They're too big, too broad, too fast, too strong, and some part of the human brain is naturally terrified by that. I think even hell, you could even go subtle, like a person. For example, we notice when a person doesn't blink, but we ignore people who do blink, right? Or there we have micro adjustments in our body language. Slow blinking. We tend to shift in our seat. Our heads move. I talk with my hands a lot, right? You guys see me shifting and moving in my seat. But what if somebody's like a predator and they just stare at you? You know what I mean? They got that hungry look in their eye. They're just like staring at you, and they're like, hmm. And even though you're talking to them and they're like, "No, I hear what you're saying," but they're like looking you up and down like they're ready to pounce on you and kill you. You know, heck, I've got cats, and there's sometimes when they're like, "Please give me head rubbies," and there's other times my cat looks at me and I'm like, "Yeah, I know to stay off of you because despite the fact that I'm like 5 times your size, you're ready to pounce, right?" Yeah. Jarl says our brains are amazing at spotting things that are off and don't make sense to us naturally. That's a great plot point for player characters that, like, they're in a hab or a starship or whatever, and they notice something's off, but they can't quite put their finger on it, and everyone else is walking around like, "I don't notice anything wrong," and the PCs are like, "Yes, there is. Come on." There's something wrong. Don't you see it? Like They Live, like the movie They Live. Like, I see, guys, there's like body snatchers, and everyone's like, I don't get it. don't see it. Viva la revolution! Yeah, Jarl says, yeah, or maybe they smell or taste the air, or their movements are too quick. You'd notice that immediately and be horrified by it. Yeah, when they shake your hand or grab your shoulder, it's a little too possessive, you know, or the way they walk. You ever see a predator when they get ready to pounce? Their eyes, their pupils open up, and their head is like a it starts to float, but the rest of their body starts moving. Like if you've ever seen predatory cats or like felines or lupines in those nature shows, you'll see that their body moves, but their head never leaves their target. And could you imagine someone just walking around the room and their head constantly is staring at you, despite the fact that they're doing other things. They're like putting things in their pocket. They're picking up a notebook. They're putting on their shirt, but they're just staring at you. And it's like, yeah, I see you. I see you. I'll eat you. Right? Yeah, I agree with you, y'all. Gaster says perhaps these super soldiers go AWOL and begin to lead a revolt upon the government who had created them. You know what? Makes perfect sense, right? Soldier, hey, we're going to make you a super soldier. Soldiers go to war. They're like, great, I'm feeling pretty good. And then they can't turn it off. Hell yeah. They're like, we're going to destroy you because we don't want other soldiers to go through the insanity that we go through. Like, for example, in transhumanism, the idea that you have a computer in your brain that gives you a perfect memory. There's a reason why we forget things, or our emotional adjustment begins to dull after a while, and for safety reasons. But imagine being able to relive an emotional experience as if you just lived it that day, and then imagine you can't turn that off. That would be horrible, to constantly like feel the panic in your chest, or get the flop sweats from nervousness, or like you just can't stop remembering things even though it's been dozens of years later, and you're like, turn it off. I don't want to see myself killing these people over and over again. And you just wake up from a horror because you just see yourself doing it over and over and over again. Yeah, I'm with you, Gaster. It goes on to say maybe just subtle things. He says, I like the idea of vampires being like, Viva la revolution. Like the vampires are the bad guys, but you find out that they're really the good guys because they want to shut it down. The PCs are sent in to put down the uprising, and all they realize, like, they actually have a point. Yeah, maybe just subtle things like when they try it has too many. Oh, like when they try it has too many teeth, or a hand that seemingly has one too many fingers, or when they look back, they look all right. Like little subtle mutations, I guess you're saying. Um, Eyes are a little too big, mouth, the jaw opens up just a little bit too wide, you know, and and you know what happens with. Okay, so we have cortical stacks, we have resleeving. Where are these factories punching out all these biological bodies, right? Like there must be some kind of warehousing of these bodies without any brains in them, without stacks in them. What if those empty biological bodies turn on, or someone activates their lizard brain or something? Like before you, I don't know how it would work, but our before our consciousness is inserted into a body and we sleeve ourselves into the body, is there a mechanism that has like the lungs and the blood system and the heart rate going in a biological body before we sleeve into it, or is it turned off? Right? Is it stuck on some kind of techno umbilical cord with an outside pacemaker, or are they alive and on, but they're just like they're in like a power down mode where it's just the minimum heart rate, blood, organs, liver, stomach moving until you get sleeved into them? And what happens if somebody activates those half-formed biological bodies as imagined in the show Westworld, where they were like gray without skin. They didn't have any skin. You just see like the gray um, plastic, bioplastic muscle fibers and stuff. You know, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Jarl says uh, it's a Stone Age response to spot things like dangerous mutations, sicknesses, etc. So our brains are very good at spotting things that are even slightly off what we expect in other humans. Um, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not sure where I heard this, but I think there are even records of people being able to sense internal diseases and afflictions in other people. Um, and that there are people today who can kind of sense, although not scientifically proven, but can sense other people who have like cancers and other kinds of mutations inside the body. And I know there are pets that can do the same thing. Some dogs are trained that they can smell in internal dysfunction, let alone external things like skin tags being representative of like cancers and such. And I can imagine in a far future setting, um, cancers and mutations would probably be pretty common. Not with technology being allowed to have us, I don't know, go into like nutrient baths to rid ourselves of like destroyed DNA, shredded DNA to reconstitute ourselves. Like drinking calcium supplements or something like that. But I'm sure there would probably be, I could imagine a psionic talent that does nothing but sense mutations in other people. You know, even if it's a temporary mutation, like, oh, this person was on in a hab orbiting around close to the sun for 8 months. Their DNA starting to fray, and the sigh is like, no wonder my head hurts. I can just sense something wrong with you, dude. You need to go into your nutrient bath or something. Jarl says if you're an emperor, you gotta make sure your super soldiers all die in a glorious and deliberate last battle, so that you can rule in peace without bloodthirsty post-human killers running around. Yeah, or you know what? You gotta have a trash planet. Dump them there. Just make sure they don't get out, right? Cameron says part of military training is training your memory. That might be one of the reasons why things are hard to let go of as well. Yeah, there's muscle memory training, right? Like it's the training your body to do things that you psychologically don't want to do. Like, for example, during my martial arts training, especially in something as subtle as Aikido, you train yourself to go into the flow of an attack rather than doing the instinctual thing is to put your hands up and run. But the flow into attack is actually safe, which is scary when you got like, weapons and fists and legs going towards your face and body. And to be like, yeah, remember that giant knuckle sandwich coming towards your jaw? Yeah, you want to flow into that. You want to get closer. You're like, yeah. Gaster Two Soul says, maybe just subtle things like when sorry, maybe me and your all's ideals could be combined. Maybe this discovery of the genetic mutation I had mentioned ties over to the government doing things to soldiers, turning them into these vampiric badasses. But hey, it's up to him if he wants to mash these two ideas together. Oh, it's not. Listen, this uh the subtext to this whole channel is an idea you can steal, dude. You don't need permission. We're just talking out loud. I suppose maybe a disclaimer would be, please don't bring your best ideas. But all ideas are good ideas. Yeah, why the hell not? And I mean, even socially, I could imagine people getting used to the fact that like they keep inviting the colonists that already have lived on the planet for a long time, keep inviting, like sending off um, um, emergency flares. We need more people to visit here because they're like feeding off of them like vampires because, without fresh blood, they'll die off or something. And no one, everyone wants a cure, but no one wants to actually help them. The governments are like, oh, let's hope they just die off, quarantine the planet, shut the doors in a hab and just let them go off on their own. And they're like vampiric combat, roided out vampiric people are just like, you mofos, you left us here. Oh, I can't wait to take revenge. Oh, don't make, because I will. I mean, if we think about vampirism, like if we take little bits and pieces of it apart, like for example, sunlight. I'm not really sure how vampires would or would not survive off of a planetary surface, but UV radiation. Maybe it's solar radiation that just affects the skin, and they're far more vulnerable to it. So that could be one thing. Needing to not being able to create blood from bone marrow in their biological bodies is a thing. Not really sure about the well, getting stabbed in the heart kills everybody, so that's not really a big thing. But or but all the other vampiric things like garlic or whatever, maybe it's just a hypersensitivity to it, like a predatory animal not liking the smell of like certain chemicals. Maybe there's something to that. So you could take the typical vampiric historical parts and start to mutate them a little bit, twist them into a more of a high tech kind of thing. I like that. Yeah, Gaster says, "Oh God, I imagine just like a prison colony, but it's an entire planet, and it's these vampire super soldiers abandoned on the landscape." Yeah, and maybe one little tiny little mutation has grown and grown into, um, yeah, maybe it's just grown into something more and more, right? Um, who's to say that it hasn't it started out as something simple and then has just mutated into something uh it's just mutated into something far more horrible. I lost something on Twitch. Why is my Twitch? Come on, there we go. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So uh I'm thinking that along with, okay, so sorry, my I'm getting a ton of things in my head. So let's go with some NPC ideas, right? Like for example, um, Life Force. Damn, Tesla put punches in Life Force. I remember that because that was one of my first experiences with the great um, Stewart. Turns out that the vampire myth stems from these space vampires who visit Earth with Halley's Comet to suck the life from energy from humans. They look like giant bats while hibernating inside their spaceship, but they transform into regular humans to seduce their prey. Also, while a stake can kill them, it has to be made of leaded iron and stabbed 2 inches under instead of through the heart. Ooh, see, that's a little bit of a mutation. Life Force, Patrick Stewart. The I could imagine like player characters. If player characters have an access to this or like an NPC or something, um, this could be like a mutation they've brought back with them, or an alien species that like looks normally like a bat kind of thing on their home world, but they have shaped themselves either through natural selection or technology, or of course those pod people to look like human beings, and that's how they live. Or maybe on their home world there was like some other kind of like animal or something that they attach themselves to live off of, but when they come to a sentient species like human beings, they're like, man, I can't get enough of them. Now, what much like we were talked about ghosts, like Ghost in the Shell, like there could be people that are ghosts in this like global slash interstellar technological network of ghosts and things. draining the memories, the digital memories of people. That could be like a vampiric thing, or maybe a ghost like related mechanism. Um, I could imagine uh, uh, some kind of like inbred isolationist that are using people's body parts to replace their own. Considering that technology could very easily do away with rejection of things, or what happens to all the biological effluvia that's flushed away from the mistakes of the biological bodies that are put in pods for people to sleeve into, right? Like, sure, the you can get a top shelf body, but there's always the bargain bin, right? And what happens to bargain bin biological bodies? Like, did they grow a couple of extra limbs, a couple of extra eyes, a mouth where it doesn't belong, some extra organs on the inside, or maybe some of those organs are on the outside, or a very low or short lifespan or something, or hell, even a sociological desire where everyone is engaged in the same um, belief that only the strong, right? And they purposefully mutate themselves like these dangerous vampires, because they're like, we're the next step in evolution, and you need to step up your game. If you're not a predator, you're just prey. You're sheep. You're not a wolf. You're a sheep. And maybe they take this literally, you know. Gaster Two Soul says underground vampire cities in this prison colony, kind of the Drow. If you want to bring OG D&D lore into this, yeah, yeah, they've been living there a long time, and nobody makes a comment about it, right? Yeah, uh, a tumorous twin. I'm not a baby, I'm a tumor. Yeah. What is the hell? What's the Quato in Total Recall, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Total Recall, where the leader of the rebellion opens up his shirt and he's got his twin in his chest, like a bit of a fetus with arms. It's really brilliant and psychic and whatnot. Yeah, Quato. Yep. Start the reactor. Quaid. Michael Ironside. Oh man, I love that dude. Didn't he always play himself in every movie, TV show? Quaid. What a great movie! Oh man, Arnold. Uh, Far deeper. Arnold's been in quite a number of movies that have been a lot deeper than we give him credit for, right? But very deep in and of itself, And hell, even I could imagine even like a VR world where you could do like a one-off. You could run a one-off game where the players have to go into a virtual reality world to uncover something. Come to find out they can't get out, and the virtual reality world was designed to siphon off something off of their neural network, like their memories or their emotions or something, and uh, something's been spreading around where people plug into this network, but they end up dying and they can't unplug themselves, or they refuse to unplug themselves, or hell, maybe society is like, it's the equivalent of drug addicts, right? Like, so they died. That's their own fault for being addicted. They need to unplug themselves, but really, there's something far more insidious going on, and these neuro vampires are draining extremely sensitive information about governments, corporations, and whatnot. Um, you know, uh, Saboteurs, but they're getting their skills are getting better and better. Like Taskmaster from the Marvel comics. He's a Taskmaster was a villain that if he watched what you did, he could duplicate what you did and did it just as well as you did. So this vampiric zombified group of super soldiers are just getting better and better by watching people or downloading other people's memories. And like all they have to do is just attack you, and then they, I don't know, jam something in the back of your neck, and then they, they download your codes or your passwords and the people you know and your bank accounts and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I was like, Arnie's an insane person who has succeeded amazingly at everything he tried. Yeah, he's pretty much succeeded on pure charisma. Because he wasn't the best actor at all, but it was just fun to watch him. Cam says, "I haven't seen Total Recall in too long. Time to visit a bay for pirates. A bay for pirates? Where would that be?" Jarl says, would world famous bodybuilder, biggest action star of all time, became governor of a state, just succeeded at everything he tried. And side note, here in the great state of Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, every single year, of course, not this year because of the virus, the Arnold Classic takes over the city. Literally every hotel, our convention center, we have a nationwide arena, we've got Vet Stadium, the entire thing, and we have a statue here in Columbus, Ohio, to Arnold the bodybuilder that's here. And I participated in the Arnold Sports Fest in martial arts. I've got a gold and 2 bronzes from that event. So yeah, I can't hate on him too much. Ooh, Gaster says, "Oh God, it reminds me of the scene in Basket Case where the conjoined twins was still attached to the guy." We didn't talk about mutations like you're talking about, like conjoined twins, or I don't know, the back of someone's head can open up like an alien pod, and their brain can detach out of the human body so that the body can still move, but the brain is like some kind of like psychic entity or something with a spinal cord attached to it. And maybe you got to have a lot of like snot like ooze and maybe tentacles coming out of it, with a bunch of like wild wiry tentacles reaching back into the back of the brain of the human being, and then closing the sphincter like opening in the back of the head or something. I don't know. I'm just imagining something pretty H.R. Geiger like, with a lot of that semi translucent snot, spilling everywhere, that the ooze or whatever. So, I don't know. But yeah, listen. Eclipse phase is yeah, exactly like that. Thank you, Tesla. Eclipse phase is unabashedly a body horror, transhuman sci-fi related role-playing game. Now, Altered Carbon, while it's far more embraces the idea of like cyberpunk, neon, cool aesthetic, a huge division between the haves and have-nots, dirty streets versus dirty streets below versus the people in the above in the gravity well, who've escaped the gravity well, that are meths and they live forever. There's a big division between that. Eclipse phase not as much. It more deals with the horrors both internally and externally. And I have to say, like, the idea of having, using classic things like zombies, skeletons, vampires, ghosts. I think it still fits for technology, even if you just want to do a one-off. Do a one-off with like a mission for the player characters, or even attach a type of body horror to the player characters. Like, for example, yeah, you're a badass now, but you're only one implant away, you're one mutation away, you're one re-sleeve or cortical stack um, spin up away from being these other things that are inhuman and horrible, or the classic trade-off thing, right? Like, yeah, I'm a badass super soldier, much like in Palladium games from Rifts. If you guys are familiar with Rifts, there's a group known as the Juicers, and if you play a juicer, your lifespan is, what is it, like 2 to 6, 2 to 5, or 2 to 6 years. I think you roll like a D4 or a D6 plus one or something like that, right? Like you have a short lifespan. Period. If you play a juicer, your lifespan is short. Um, Maybe, just maybe, there are people in this world that circumvent the rules, right? That, like, let's go with Eclipse Phase. So yeah, you get a 10% bump on your perception because you've got some kind of cyber optics or something, or you have a mutation for your lungs or whatever. I mean, enhancement for your lungs. But maybe, just maybe, there's something that actually goes beyond that if you get rid of the safety protocols. So yeah, I get a plus 30% on my lung capacity. I can hold my breath for like 45 minutes. And sure, my lifespan is low, and I might turn into a big pile of sludge in the next couple of months, but I'm better than you are. And there are lots of people who would go for something like that, thinking that they could easily get around the limitations, and they are now in a constant struggle, like these super soldiers, that before they die, maybe there's a cure or a remedy or revenge or some kind of method to get out of the thing that's happening to them. So I could imagine a player character. I'm sure there's everybody's got somebody at their table that's like, yeah, I'll take the extra benefit. Who cares if it's going to affect me this way? Blah blah blah. I'll end up getting rid of it. It's the warlock conundrum, right? Like, yeah, I'll make a pact with the warlock patron because they're not going to tell me what to do. And it's like, yeah, no, you know. This could be something that was created on purpose. So, you know, um, badasses, but short lifespans or short capabilities or self-destruction may be a thing that's like, you know what, you want to stay alive, you better come back to me. And oh, by the way, you owe me. So do what I tell you, and you I'm going to give you another 3 years. But if not, your genetic code is going to be obsolete if you don't re-up your status with us, whether it's like a criminal organization or a corporation or some kind of like faction or something like that. Yet um, now when it comes to like the mindlessness of like zombies and whatnot, pretty easy, especially if you attach to them some kind of like something viral, or hell, there might even be a digital virus or a hack, or like a basilisk hack. A basilisk hack is someone visually watches code, and that the act of watching the code pass through your optical nerves hacks your brain to get you to do something. So I could imagine that being a problem too, where there's maybe a virus in the system, or someone brought a virus or some kind of nanotech or something onto or into a habitat, and then it starts acting like a zombie infection. Maybe even worse if the people know that they're being affected by it, and they're like screaming at everybody, like, "Please run!" As they start like raising a knife up, like, "You've got to get out of here! I don't have control over my body." Um, Cameron says, "What about cybernetic implants keeping a body alive while the brain is dead? Do you think the cybernetics could get the bodies to eat?" Ooh. Um, well, we speculate that the human brain is one of the best places to save information. It's a 3D, you know, what it's basically a hard drive. So if there's a technological way to keep the brain going, with the brain being dead, but juicing it with like neural stimulation, I could see that. People, hell, killing the person, taking the brain, sticking it into like machines, or doing a full body cyber conversion on human beings, and then using the brains to power them because the human brain is one of the best computational networks. Or maybe it's a throwback. Yeah, some old technology, like, oh, we've moved past needing to use human brains. Or maybe the technology we have today has a dark past that no one knows about. So uh much like our modern day American highway system has its origins in Nazi Germany, because the highway system was developed to like land planes on and to get goods, ammo and supplies from the military from one side of a place to another across land. And, maybe there's like an extremely dark history to what transhuman technology is. Like, you know what? To get your cortical stack, we had to use guinea pigs. And yeah, we've moved past using monkeys and cows and rats. We had to use human guinea pigs as brains, and use the brains to put into synthetic bodies in the beginning. And now it's like worse. Maybe shadows or echoes of a person's memories are coming back, or hell, even the trauma of the pain in their brain. Like, to us, we're like, oh, it's just digital information that we're pumping into a brain. But the person going through it is like, oh my God, you're activating my pain sensors, mofo. Tesla brings up the virus, the movie. Richie asks the virus what it wants from them. The virus responds with a lengthy and highly specific list of organic parts humans possess. When the meaning is lost on the crew, Richie simplifies it. Spare parts. It wants us for spare parts. Yeah. Directed by John Bruno with Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Sutherland. Donald Sutherland, who appears in everything. William Baldwin, he's another one that's one of those guys who's always in that thing. Oh, man. When the crew of an American tugboat boards an abandoned Russian research vessel, the alien life from aboard regards them as a virus, which must be destroyed. Yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being part of Future Friday. At some point, we're probably going to have to deal with maybe like mechanics and things like that in these games, that I talk about them. But please, hey, help me boost the signal of the channel. Just like, share, subscribe, follow, whatever. Let people know about it. And as always, thank you so much. And Lloyd, thank you very much. Unless things changed, thank you very much for joining me for this coming Sunday for Absolute Tabletops Convention at Con Online, or at Conline. I'll end up putting that information, post that information up. But we will be having a panel thereof, and I believe it's beginning today and will go all the way through the weekend. So guys, please check that out as well. Everybody have a great weekend. I will see you later. Thank you so much for just being supporting me, being part of the show. There are some pretty good things happening on my end. I can't reveal too much information about it, but just rest assured, hopefully maybe a year from now, I know it seems quite a bit of ways, you will see me in a bigger and bigger format. So I'm really loving it. Hopefully my writing skills will hold up until then. So guys, have a great one, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much for watching. See ya. Bye. Thank you very much. See ya.